Hello and welcome to this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. I'm your host, Chris Greene, the Director of Network Expansion for Avoya Travel. And as always, we appreciate your time for tuning in. And we hope you hear something today that creates our opportunity for further engagement. We would love to discuss all of the best-in-class resources offered by Avoya Travel for those in the Avoya Travel Network, and we can see if they're a great fit for your agency. We have a great show planned for you today, including our Meet the Team feature when we introduce you to Margaux Jones, Director of Creative Services. It all must blend together seamlessly to stand out and be memorable. Great design does just that, and Margaux will be joining us to discuss how a great design brings together the traveling public, the travel advisor, and our supply partners. We look forward to our discussion in just a few minutes. The heat is on and the timing is urgent if a travel corridor is to open between the United States and Europe for this summer's travel season. We'll have the latest in our Eye on the Industry feature coming up in just a moment. But first, as we kick off today's episode of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update, we continue to celebrate you, the travel advisor, during Avoya Travel's Travel Advisor Appreciation Month. And guess what? We come bearing gifts. Each week in May, we're giving away a free informational guide designed to help you run an even better travel business. From how-tos to top tips, these guides will help you with marketing, planning, time management, professional development, and more. And this week's featured guide is amazing, and it's all about sales with 7 tips to increase sales during the post-pandemic recovery. Access your free guide by signing up at our website, avoyanetwork.com. Well, as we move forward with this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update, it's time for a few industry insights and our Eye on the Industry feature. The CDC lowered the travel advisory for travel to England from a level 4 to a level 3. Although travel for Americans is still very restricted, it requires a 10-day quarantine period and 2 negative COVID tests. Now, citizens of England are also still restricted and banned from entering the United States for leisure travel. And if a corridor is to open for this summer, things are going to have to improve, and that will be one of the many focuses for ASTA during their annual legislative days next week. And we're going to have a full recap of the ASTA Legislative Day next week, as we have several of our executives participating in that up on Capitol Hill, and we'll do that here on Deck with Avoya next Thursday. CLIA is also having a major event next week when it comes to engagement between the cruise industry and the current Biden administration and those in Congress. And they're hosting a webinar on May 18th for an update on efforts to restart cruising in North America. In the statement from CLIA, they said, "We attribute much of our progress to CLIA's Ready, Set, Sail initiative that has energized the determination and the enthusiasm of the entire cruise community and provided opportunities to take meaningful action to support jobs and the industry that is invested in and is employing protocols that go deeper and broader than any industry globally." Again, here at Avoya Travel, we're going to have a full report on the updates, and we encourage all travel professionals to engage, whether that's your local officials or national officials. Just make sure your voice is heard. They know our industry needs the support and that we should not be left behind as many segments of our society move forward. In some promising signs, and maybe one your clients are sure to love, because who doesn't want to go to Italy, right? Well, Italy is in final discussions to allow some Americans back into the country for leisure travel starting in June. Yeah, just a few weeks away. Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio recently announced that the country's quarantine requirements could be lifted for eligible travelers arriving from the United States as early as June. And this comes on the heels of announcements from Spain that they expect to welcome vaccinated and COVID negative guests back into the country in June as well. Right now, both countries ban international travel for leisure purposes. Norwegian Cruise Lines announced their newest ship to join the fleet, the Norwegian Prima, which is Italian for first. It'll be sailing from Texas, Florida, New York, and Europe. And not only is this a new ship for NCL, but it's the start of a whole new class of ship, the Prima class, the first new class of ship for NCL in a decade. And here's some important facts that I think your clients would like. It's going to carry a maximum of 3,215 passengers plus crew. And get this, it features a 44,000 square foot ocean boulevard that's going to wrap around the full ship. 2 infinity pools, 1 on each side, 2 glass bridges that are going to give your clients that feeling of walking on air or on water, and a really cool indulge food hall. It's going to be Norwegian's first open-air marketplace featuring 11 different food venues. The Haven section is getting a makeover as well, and the Prima will feature more classes of suites, 13 in all, than any other Norwegian ship in the fleet. The Prima is scheduled for its maiden voyage in the summer of 2022, with a new sister ship joining every year for the next 5 years. And finally, some great news from right here at Avoya Travel. In a press release issued this week, Avoya Travel, one of the travel industry's most innovative brands, recently concluded its third annual Avoya Mastermind Land Forum. This took place virtually from May 4th through the 7th of this year, and hundreds of independent agencies in the Avoya Travel Network attended the event, which featured the participation of over 40 of Avoya's preferred land partners. And Avoya shared some really impressive figures during the event as well. Among the most noteworthy numbers shared are the nearly 50% increase in overall resort sales in the previous 60 days when you compare that to 2019, as well as a 70% increase in patented live leads for resort products during that same time frame. Live leads, right? So important for a business. Important announcements made include cutting-edge enhancements to the resort section of the Avoya Travel consumer website and the expansion of the brands and properties on display, as well as further improvements to the integration of hotels and resorts within Avoya's proprietary agent power technology. If you love selling resorts, but you're struggling to find the right clients, schedule your time with a network expansion specialist today to see how our unique resources can help your business grow. Well, it's time for another great segment of On Deck with Avoya, Meet the Team. And as I always note, this is my favorite segment of our program. And this week, we're going to meet Margaux Jones, the Director of Creative Services, who will be joining us in just a moment to discuss her role with Avoya Travel and how her talent and work make many of the things you see look even better. I look forward to discussing how the amazing assets Margaux and her team design impact the Avoya Travel Network for the better. Of course, we hope you hear something that spurs you to action, makes you want to find out more, because we'd love to connect with you and connect you with a network expansion specialist who can answer all of your questions about our elite network. It can explain in detail our best-in-class resources like marketing, support, technology, and professional development. See how they can take your businesses to new heights. But right now, let's welcome our special Meet the Team featured guest, Margaux Jones, Director of Creative Services. Margaux, welcome to On Deck with Avoya.
Hi, Chris.
Nice to have you today. So Margaux, before we start with how you got into the travel business, let's first talk about some really early life adventures and how you ended up living in the United States, right? Because it's not your first home. You grew up in one of the most beautiful parts of the world, and now you live in another beautiful part of the world. And I'm just curious how that all kind of came to happen.
So yes, I grew up in France at the border with Switzerland, and I'm both French and Swiss. My mom still lives in where I grew up, the Alps, so mountains and lake, so pretty. Yeah. My dad is Swiss and Spanish, and he now lives in La Palma in the Canary Islands. And yeah. I graduated from the Art School of Geneva, and I went to California to learn English. The plan was then to go to my dream school in Netherlands.
But sometimes dreams get interrupted by other dreams, right? So you come to California to learn English, and you found a whole lot more, and that had a direct impact on how we get to be coworkers, how you ended up at Avoya Travel, right?
Yes. So I was supposed to stay in California for only 4 months. But I ended up meeting the love of my life, and so I stayed here forever. Like you said, it was nothing like I planned. I ended going up to school in San Francisco, but everything was meant to be. And like you say, even my job at Avoya, it would be now almost 6 years, and I love it, and I see myself staying there forever also.
Well, we hope so, because your talent is amazing, and it makes all of the things look even nicer that we're able to share with our independent affiliates and with our supplier partners. Margaux Jones is our special guest this week on Deck with Avoya. Margaux, tell me a little bit, for those that don't know, what Creative Services does and what kind of projects you work with or you're part of in your role as the Director of Creative Services.
So the fun part about the Creative Services is that We almost have foot in every project of every department. We get to participate, bring to life, and see the behind the scene of Avoya as a whole, from internal, consumer, B2B, network, from marketing to pitches to website events. We do it all. But on top of helping everyone with their own project, we have our own focus, obviously. We took the brand to a whole new level by changing its logo and color palette 2 years ago. We gave Avoya an identity that visually match its purpose, sorry, I cannot say that word, being the leader in the travel industry, along with bringing consistency and legacy. As much as it shouldn't be a thing in the everyday world, in the business world, the first impressions count. It's the one that counts. So, and that's valid for both customer or travel agents. So that's why we're constantly evolving, reaching new heights through innovative design and material.
Yeah, and it's those little details that make a big difference, right? And I think that's the thing that some people forget when they're trying to do this all themselves and wear all the various hats, is that those little details, the color choices, the fonting choices, the placement of all of that, it does make a big difference, right, Margaux?
It will for sure not get your message across if it's not presented the correct way.
Now, obviously, everybody in the travel business, was dramatically impacted by COVID-19. What kind of projects did the pandemic bring about that you and your team have been involved in? Because we know from past guests that Avoya Travel took last year and the current times and really has innovated in many ways. And I'm sure your talents have been put to good use in the last year for sure.
Yes, so we wanted to show our support to independent agents as much as possible during this hard time, trying to reach out and help with different type of materials for them. We created assets for IAs to use and show support among themselves with like thank you video. At the beginning of the whole Zoom thing, we created background, we created Facebook pages with positive messaging. We created a series of flyers. Sorry, I have dogs and you can hear them on the back. Okay. We created a series of flyers with tips to help them being successful with their business, like email marketing do's and don'ts, even how to increase sales during the post-pandemic recovery. But I think the biggest thing we did would be all the assets we created for the Marketing Resource Center for IAs to use and to send to their client directly. We created FFC, FTC emails and social media posts. And also after shifting our campaign strategy to adapt to the current situation, we created tons of assets for the new series of campaign Vacation to Take Now, which help both IAs and consumers knowing what destinations are the best during this pandemic. And we made it all from email marketing, social media posts, video, flyers, even an e-magazine. So all of those assets for IAs to use either on their personal side or the professional side to help them, for them to reach out to their client directly. We really try to cover it all.
And as the person that gets to facilitate the demonstrations of our technology and to show off that amazing marketing resource center, how clean everything looks and how sharp everything looks, it's always a highlight of that demonstration. So I personally thank you for making that look so fantastic. And I know our IAs thank you because it directly benefits them and it leads to more sales and a better closing percentage. Margaux, how rewarding is that just to know that your work, your creative side has such a positive impact for the members of the Avoya Travel Network?
Well, I feel very lucky because my work, my creative side, as you say, is my passion, and I'm lucky enough that it is what I get to do every day. I am also so happy that at Avoya we put so much resources to take care of our IAs. It's something that I hear so often during brainstorming. What can we do to show our appreciation? What can we do to help them being successful with their business? When I first took the job at Avoya, I knew that I would focus on selling vacation and life experience, which is already amazing. You know, like some people spend their day marketing product much less exciting, I would say.
Right.
But I didn't know that I will also be there and help smaller business thrive, sharing our knowledge and everything we can to help smaller business thrive. Yeah. So
Margaux Jones, the Director of Creative Services, our featured Meet the Team guest this week. And Margaux, I'm going to switch over, instead of talking about you and your work side, maybe a little bit more about you outside of Avoya Travel, because you and your husband are basically running a small scale zoo there at home, right? I mean, we heard from one of your animals there in the background. Tell me a little bit about all the animals that you have.
Oh, so we are pretty much the worst. We are both very weak when it comes to pets, and we would rescue all the animals in the world if we could. We cannot say no to each other. We go to the store to get like a fish, we come back with a snake. We go to buy a branch to put in the snake tank, we come back with a turtle. We are the worst. As a kid, my parents would always tell me, because I would already ask for pets, when you have your own house, you can do what you want. So here we are. I have a zoo. We have 3 dogs, 3 snakes, a tortoise. I don't know how to say that word, tortoise. Fishes, and we pause adding to the zoo for a little bit, because we also have now a 2-year-old baby boy that we love a lot, and he loves his pets. His name is Sebastian.
Wonderful, and congratulations on that, right? I mean, to have the little junior zookeeper now to help, and hopefully here in a few more years, they'll be able to handle some of the chores that I'm sure comes along with having that many animals too.
Yeah. He's not there yet, but I cannot wait for that day.
I'm sure you can. What about favorite trips, Margaux, that you've had a chance to take, and some kind of special adventures you're looking forward to as the world starts to reopen after this COVID crisis finally passes?
So I had the enormous chance to take a trip of a lifetime. It was a 4-month-old trip. 4 months old, no, sorry, 4 months.
Right.
4 months long trip. We first went to my family in France for 3 weeks, and then we spent 3 months backpacking through Asia. And that was my first time and my husband's first time in Asia. It was a huge culture shock, but it was just amazing. We did Laos for 14 days. We did not stay one night at the same place. We just kept on going. Crossed Laos, went to Cambodia for 2 weeks, crossed Cambodia, went to Thailand for a month. It's a big country. Then we flew to Bali, so my husband could have the surf trip of his dreams. And then we went back to Bangkok, where my dad met us from Spain. And he knows Bangkok very well, so it was amazing to see the city with someone that knows it. And we went back to France for a week. And then I started my job at Avoya. So
that's a pretty good adventure to lock in before you start a job with a travel company, though.
I know, like I say, it was meant to be. Everything was meant to be.
One last question before we let you go. If you could take one thing from back home in France, Switzerland, and bring it to California, what would that be? And then vice versa, if you could transport one thing from California and bring it back there to Europe, what would that be too?
So I'm very excited because I'm actually going back to France in a few weeks.
Oh.
But if I could, like, it will not fit in my luggage. I don't know. I would say obviously my family, because of the whole COVID situation and having a baby and everything. I haven't seen them in a very long time. I haven't gone to France for 4 years. So I would say my family, the seasons, I guess. I love spring and fall, but I do love my Californian sunshine, so I will not trade that. It will just take a few days here and there. I miss the atmosphere, like the paved streets, the pre-COVID cafe terrace, the farmer market. And the food, obviously the food, but that's the same way around. Like I would love to bring the Californian food in France. I do love the food. And from America, I will bring, I just love how everything is easy here. Everything is open 24 hours. Everything is always accessible. If you need something, you just can have it right here, right now. It's more difficult in Europe.
It sounds like a good mix of what you would bring from one and from the other. Margaux Jones, everybody, Director of Creative Services for Avoya Travel. Margaux, thank you so much for your time and for being our featured Meet the Team guest today.
Thank you very much.
We really enjoyed our conversation. And next week, Gina Hoyt, Director of Avoya Mastermind, is going to be joining us. And I love our discussions with the members of the Mastermind team. And I'm really looking forward to having Gina join us next week here on Avoya Travel as our Meet the Team guest. All right, so let's talk promotions, right? So we still have a couple of promotions that are active in the marketplace, and we get a lot of questions every single week about these. So I like to reiterate a couple of key points again. So the first one is our completely waiving of the affiliation fee for Avoya Travel, and that's for a high-end experienced travel professional. The kind of agent that's been in the industry for several years. Back in 2019, more than likely would have done $500,000 in gross sales or above. When the pandemic hit last year, they got stuck with clients that had a bunch of future cruise credits and a bunch of future tour credits. Now that we're starting to emerge and the phones are starting to ring, they're starting to get some action, and maybe you're just looking for a better place to call home. You've heard about our elite resources. You know they would resonate with you. For you, that kind of agent, if we can get you qualified, we will waive that $495 fee. For agents still trying to get to that level, and Avoya Travel has a long history of helping agents attain that level of being an elite agent. For you, we have a great promotion as well. Normal affiliation fee at the end of the initial 6-month agreement. If both partners want to continue, we're waiving your initial renewal fee. So 2 great promotions, and you can explore with complete flexibility. No long-term contract or exclusive agreement. Contact us for eligibility. Get in touch with a network expansion specialist. Get all the information. Maybe get a demonstration for your agency. Let's see if we can't put together the beginning stages of a shared success relationship together. So how do you get a hold of us? Well, it's pretty easy. Of course, you can always leave us a message here on Facebook or on YouTube, depending on where you're finding us. You can always reach out to our website at avoyanetwork.com. There's my email address, chris.greene@avoyatravel.com, and our toll-free number, 855-884-1458. So give us a ring. We would, again, love to connect you. We appreciate your time. We thank you so much for being part of our weekly On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. A big thanks to Margaux Jones, my guest, our Director of Creative Services. I look forward to having Gina on next week from our Mastermind program. And big thanks to Marissa Smith, who produces our segment in the background. Have a fantastic week, and thank you so much, everyone.